Have you ever negotiated with a Chinese supplier and felt like you weren't getting the full picture? Like there was a better deal lurking just beneath the surface? Maybe you received an initial quote that seemed high, or felt like the conversation stalled after the first round of numbers. This isn't necessarily a sign of bad faith. It's often rooted in a deep-seated cultural philosophy called Liu Yu Di. Literally translated, it means leave room in the space. In a business context, it's the practice of never starting with your final, best offer. To a Western ear, this might sound like gamesmanship, but to many Chinese partners, it's a form of wisdom. Imagine you're the procurement lead for NordaTech, looking to source a high-volume hardware component. You send out an RFQ, and the response from a factory in Shenzhen comes back 15% higher than your target price. A few weeks later, at a trade fair, you meet another buyer sourcing from the same factory who reveals they're paying exactly what you were aiming for. It feels like you were being misled, right? Actually, in many cases, that high opening price was the room the supplier left to see if you were a serious, long-term partner. By leaving room, they allow space for the relationship to develop through the negotiation process itself. This philosophy stems from Confucian roots, the idea that harmony is maintained when both sides feel they have gained something. If the first offer is the best offer, there's no room for the ritual of compromise that builds trust. So, how do you navigate Liu Yu Di without feeling like you're overpaying? Start by signaling your seriousness. Don't just focus on the price. Talk about your long-term volume needs and your commitment to quality. Ask strategic questions. Instead of saying, "That's too high," ask, "What factors would need to change for us to reach a price point of X?" This invites your partner to use that room they've left without losing face. Understanding Liu Yu Di transforms negotiation from a battle of numbers into a bridge for building lasting partnerships. Leave a little room in your own expectations, and you might find the deal you were looking for was always there, waiting for the right conversation. Picture this. You've been negotiating a deal with a Chinese supplier for 3 weeks, back and forth on price, on terms, on delivery. Finally, you think you've got a deal. You shake hands, metaphorically, over Zoom, and you walk away feeling pretty good. Then, 2 days later, they come back with a better offer. And you think, why didn't they just say that 3 weeks ago? If you've ever done business with Chinese partners, you've probably lived this moment. And it's not a trick, it's not bad faith. It's something much more interesting. It's a philosophy. And it has a name. Liu Yu Di. Liu Yu Di. Literally, leave room in the space. Today, we're unpacking what that actually means, why it shapes the way Chinese counterparts negotiate, and, most importantly, what you can do about it. Let's start with the characters, because they tell the whole story. Liu, to keep, to retain. Yu, to have. Yu-di, literally extra ground, leftover space, room to maneuver. Put it together, deliberately keeping something in reserve, not showing all your cards, leaving yourself room to move. Now in English, we might call that holding back, and that sounds a little suspicious, like someone's hiding something. But in Chinese culture, Liu Yu Di isn't deceptive, it's wise. It's considered a mark of good judgment. You never burn your last bridge. You never fire your last bullet. You always keep something in your pocket, because you don't know what's coming next. This isn't just a business tactic. It shows up in how people speak, how they give opinions, how they handle disagreements. A Chinese colleague might say, "Huan hao la," it's okay, when they actually mean, "I have serious concerns." Why? Because they're leaving room. Room for the relationship. room for the other person to save face, room for the situation to change. In negotiation, that same instinct becomes, never give your best offer first. Let me give you a concrete scenario that plays out constantly in cross-border business. A European tech company, let's call them NordaTech, is sourcing hardware components from a factory in Shenzhen. They send an RFQ. The Chinese factory quotes them $12 per unit. NordaTech pushes back. The factory drops to $11.50. More pushing, they get to $11.20. NordaTech decides that's probably the floor and closes the deal. 6 months later, NordaTech is at a trade fair. They run into another buyer from the same factory. That buyer is paying $10.80 per unit. Same component, same volume. NordaTech feels played. But here's what actually happened from the factory's side. The factory manager never knew how serious NordaTech was. Were they shopping around? Would they disappear after one order? Would they cause problems? The $12 quote wasn't a lie. It was an opening position that left room. Room to reward serious buyers. Room to respond if the relationship proved valuable. Room to drop further if volume grew. The factory didn't deceive NordaTech. They just didn't give away their margin to an unknown quantity up front. This happens in services too. A Chinese consulting firm might quote a project at 500,000 RMB. After some back and forth, they might land at 420,000. But a long-term client with a track record, they might start the conversation at 380,000 because that relationship has already earned the room.留有余地is, in part, a trust-gating mechanism. The best offer goes to people who have demonstrated they're worth it. So where does this come from? Why is holding back considered smart rather than shady? A few threads here. First, the Confucian logic of relationship before transaction. In a Western deal structure, particularly American or Northern European, the contract is the relationship. You define everything up front, you sign it, you execute it. The deal is the trust. In Chinese business culture, that's almost backwards. The relationship comes first, and the deal is an expression of it. Before you give someone your best price, you want to know, who are you to me? Stranger, acquaintance, partner, friend? Liu Yu Di allows space for that relationship to develop and define what the terms should be. You're not withholding, you're calibrating. Second, the deeper version to Ho Hui, regret. Chinese business culture places enormous value on not being caught without options. Making a maximum concession up front feels reckless because what if you need that room later? What if circumstances change? What if they come back demanding more? Keeping something in reserve is how you protect yourself and how you protect the relationship from future awkwardness. Third, face and signaling. There's a performance element too. In many Chinese negotiation contexts, being seen to negotiate matters. A partner who gives you their best number immediately might actually lose face. It signals desperation, or that they didn't think much of the deal. Going through rounds of give and take is a ritual that shows mutual respect, that both parties are serious, that the deal is worth working for. A Western buyer who says, "Just give me your best price, no games," is, from the Chinese side, kind of skipping the handshake. It can feel abrupt, even disrespectful. Okay, so knowing all this, what do you actually do? Strategy 1. Signal seriousness early and specifically. The reason you don't get the best offer up front is that your counterpart doesn't know if you're worth it yet. So tell them, not, "We're very interested." Everyone says that. Be specific. Volume, timeline, relationship intent. We're looking at an initial order of X, with quarterly reorders if quality holds. We want one supplier relationship for this category, not a rotating roster. That kind of signal moves you from stranger to potential partner. The UUD starts moving in your direction. Strategy 2, build in time, and don't flinch at the ritual. If you expect the first offer to be the final offer, you're going to make bad decisions. Budget for multiple rounds. Let the negotiation breathe. When they come down from $12 to $11.50, don't immediately accept. Not because you're being difficult, but because accepting too fast signals you weren't paying attention to the room they left. Match their rhythm. It's not a waste of time. It's how trust gets built. Strategy 3. Ask the right questions instead of demanding the bottom line. What's your best price? Is a dead end. It puts them on the spot and they'll just give you a number that still has room in it. Better questions. What would it look like if we committed to a 12-month partnership? What terms would make this easier on your end? How do other long-term clients typically structure this? You're inviting them to show you the room they're holding, on their own terms. Strategy 4. Invest in the relationship before the deal. This sounds slow. It is slow, but it works. Meals matter. Follow-up calls matter. Remembering what they told you last time matters. Every touchpoint shifts you from transactional stranger to someone worth giving the real number to. The best offer isn't hidden behind a trick. It's behind a relationship. UUD isn't about deception. It's about wisdom. The wisdom of never being caught without options, and the cultural logic that says, I give my best to those who've earned it. Once you understand that, the frustration dissolves, and the whole negotiation looks different. You're not trying to force someone's hand. You're trying to become the kind of partner worth giving the room to. That's the game, and now you know the rules. If you've had one of these, why didn't they say that earlier moments? Drop it in the comments. I want to hear it. And if this kind of thing is useful to you, the next video is about DART-IG, the art of never saying no directly. You're going to recognize it immediately. See you there.